Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. I was sitting back in my chair, looking around the room and thinking about all the pretty women here. I was wondering why Mark chose my wife. What made her say yes? And why did she leave me? Our kids were getting older and wouldn't be coming home often. Linda and I had already talked about what we'd do when we had the house to ourselves. A while ago, I had thought about how Linda and I would get closer with more time together. But then I realized that Linda might not see me in her future plans. I felt really silly. That made me stop feeling sad and start feeling angry instead. I could tell everyone at the table was worried, like they thought I might explode or do something silly. Dee, sounding anxious, inquired, "You all right, Jim?" On the far end of the dance floor, seated in a booth, were four striking young women, visible over Dee's shoulder. Why hadn't Mark Lavalier chosen one of them? I observed them briefly before bursting into laughter, startling everyone at the table. My laughter echoed so loudly that it drew attention to our group, tears streaming down my face. Once my laughter subsided, I wiped my tears and flashed a broad smile to everyone, realizing my life had undergone a profound change. I was no longer bound by monogamy. The concern for my wife's feelings vanished as she no longer cared about mine. All eyes were fixed on me. Turning to Dee with a smile, I removed my wedding ring and handed it to her, leaving her astonished. "Give this message to Linda when you see her. I need to do some things." I stood up and put $10 on the table for my drink. "Since you were okay with Linda cheating, you can pay for it." As I walked away, my old friends called out to me from the club door. I wondered what I'd say if they tried to follow me. But one thing was certain. Any husband who ignored my warning and came after me would get hurt. I thought about how Linda cared only about herself and how I wanted to do things just for me. Upon reaching the hotel, I inquired about available full-size suites at the front desk. The clerk regretfully informed me of their unavailability, but suggested a honeymoon suite instead, listing its numerous amenities. "I'll take it. There's no need to keep the room I'm currently in since it's late at night already. I'll cover the costs for both rooms. My wife will remain in the original room, while I'll be in the suite," I informed the young woman behind the desk. She gave me a puzzled look. "I briefly thought you were arranging something special for your wife." After she handed me the keycard for the suite and provided directions, I made a request. "If my wife inquires about the key to my room, please refrain from giving it to her. Actually, could you leave specific instructions not to disclose my whereabouts if she asks?" The young woman's expression turned curious, but she smiled nonetheless. "I'll ensure the hotel staff receives your instruction," she assured me. I returned to my previous room to gather my belongings, leaving Linda's items behind in the trash bins. Taking the elevator to the top floor, I marveled at the spacious honeymoon suite, complete with a jacuzzi on the expansive balcony with a city view. I had brought an expensive tuxedo along in case we decided to indulge in late-night drinks at one of the upscale nearby restaurants. Donning my jacket, I made my way back to the club, stopping by the ATM for some cash. Upon my return, a long line had formed at the entrance. Approaching the doorman confidently, I slipped him a $100 bill with a smile. In return, he opened the door and welcomed me inside. When I went into the club, my old friends were sitting at a table. I looked around, hoping to see what I saw before. Four beautiful young women at a table near the dance floor. They didn't have any men with them, so it seemed like a bachelorette party, which was what I wanted. I walked through the club, and Dee saw me and tried to get my attention as I passed their table. Everyone looked at me, but I didn't pay attention to them. I went over to a table with four women. I asked, "Why are you four lovely ladies sitting alone?" They all smiled at me. The tall brunette laughed and said, "We're here for our friend. Some jerk left her for another woman, so we're here to cheer her up." The brunette seemed a little drunk. "Well, if you don't mind, I'd love to dance with your friend and help cheer her up." I turned to the petite redhead who smiled and offered her hand for me to help her out of the booth. As we danced, I inquired about her name. "Samantha, I'm Jim," I introduced myself. "How could someone be foolish enough to let go of such a beautiful woman?" She responded, "Because he's an idiot." We shared a laugh as we continued dancing and chatting. Samantha shared that she was studying nursing in college and grew up nearby. As a slower song began, we kept dancing. With the music now softer, Samantha asked, "Are you married, Jim?" I confessed we were no longer together. "Was it your wife who danced with Mark Lavalier earlier?" "I noticed she disappeared after that dance," Samantha remarked. "You weren't the only one who noticed, Jim." I flashed Samantha a sincere smile. "Looks like you discovered our breakup at the same moment I did." Samantha returned the warmth with a smile, and we danced closely until the song's end. Both of us had recently experienced heartache from people we cared about, and holding each other felt comforting. As the music ceased, we made our way back to Samantha's table. Addressing the others, Samantha declared, "I know we agreed no men would join us, but I want Jim to stay." The brunette joked with us and said, "I'm not sure. We did say no, guys." Then I suggested, "How about I buy us a few bottles of champagne to make up for it?" Samantha disagreed. "I'm not sure." We made a deal. She smiled at her friends and said, "We saw Mark Lavalier leaving with his wife." They all said together, "Didn't see a thing." 3 of the ladies moved over in the booth to make room for Samantha and me. Before I could ask for their names, the blonde next to Samantha asked, "Are you two in an open marriage?" I quickly said, "Absolutely not." Then another blonde chimed in. "What did she say to you?" "Nothing. She claimed she was going to the restroom, but slipped out the back of the club with Mark." I gestured with my thumb over my shoulder, and all my former acquaintances covered for her. Just then, the waitress approached. Inquiring if everyone enjoyed champagne, I received smiles all around. "2 bottles of your finest champagne," I ordered, eliciting applause from the girls. Before they could pose another question, I introduced myself. Their names were Kim, Christy, and Susan, all nursing students alongside Samantha. After the champagne arrived and everyone had a full glass, Christy the brunette inquired about my plans regarding my wife. As far as I'm concerned, our relationship ended the moment she walked out the door. "Do you have kids?" "Unfortunately, yes, a son and daughter, 15 and 13. But soon they'll be more independent and I'll address things with my wife." Samantha linked arms with me, declaring loudly, "Forget about it. You're with me tonight." We toasted with our glasses and indulged in champagne. I shared a few jokes, and the girls reciprocated. Laughter and drinks flowed as they danced with guys and each other, while Samantha remained seated with me, her arm around me. As the night went on, Christy got upset. She suddenly got up from the table and ran off. We all looked to see where she went. It seemed Dee wanted to talk to me, but Christy stopped her near my old friend's table. We couldn't hear what they were saying, but we saw Christy poking Dee's chest and yelling at her. Then, Christy let out her frustration at everyone at the table. People at nearby tables laughed at my old friend's discomfort. When Christy came back, Kim and Susan gave her high fives. Christy drank her champagne, smiled at me, and said, "None of these people are coming near our table for the rest of the night." I looked back at their table and saw they were all leaving. Both Jane and Dee appeared teary-eyed, and none of them glanced our way. "What happened, Christy?" "I saw that woman muster the courage to approach you," I questioned. "So I pushed her away and let them know exactly what I think about those who aid cheaters. You left quite an impression." They obviously hoped I'd forgive Linda to ease their consciences. "For that, I owe you a kiss." Samantha seized my head, playfully protesting, "Oh, you really shouldn't." Then she kissed me fervently, egged on by the other girls. After breaking the kiss, Samantha bestowed a sweet smile upon me. Kim teased, "Get a room, you too." "Actually," I interjected, "I have a suite in a hotel nearby, and you ladies seem unfit to drive. If we hurry, we can still have champagne delivered to our room." After settling the bar tab, the 4 of us made our way to the hotel. Samantha clung to my arm while the others leaned on us for support. During the reception, I ordered 4 bottles of champagne for our room. When I mentioned to the receptionist that it was a honeymoon suite, the ladies burst into giggles. Riding the elevator, they began singing the wedding march. Samantha blushed a lot, but she held on to me tighter as we got closer to our room. The ladies joked about me carrying Samantha over the doorstep. Samantha looked at me with her beautiful eyes and said, "You don't have to if you don't want to." I opened the door, picked up Samantha, and carried her inside. Once we were in the room, Samantha hugged me and kissed me deeply. The ladies thought it was funny, but they stopped teasing when Christy saw the jacuzzi on the balcony. Before I could put Samantha down, they all took off their clothes and got into the jacuzzi in their bras and underwear. I put Samantha down, but she still held my hand and smiled at me. Then there was a knock on the door. Someone said they had champagne for our room. We brought the champagne to the ladies, who joked and giggled. Susan insisted I was overdressed and urged me to undress. I laughed, explaining I was keeping Samantha company. They playfully urged Samantha to join them in the jacuzzi, but she simply smiled and led me back to the room. We headed to the bridal suite, while one of her friends sang the wedding march from the balcony, laughing hysterically. The next morning, I awoke with Samantha wrapped around me and 3 other undressed ladies sprawled across the king-size bed. They must have joined us later. As Samantha and I got out of bed, she watched me. I smiled at her and she returned the gesture. "Did you enjoy yourself, Jim?" she asked. "Yes, it was the best night of my life." "Any regrets?" "Absolutely none." "Join me in the shower," Samantha beckoned, slipping out of bed and pulling me towards the bathroom, eager to try something new that I had never done with Linda. Once in the shower, I lifted Samantha up and positioned her on my hardness while standing. Pressing her against the wall, she wrapped her legs around my waist. Although the standing position was challenging, it led to one of the most intense peaks I had ever experienced. Samantha had already climaxed twice, each time loudly. After we finished showering, Samantha and I saw that our loud lovemaking had woken up the other ladies. Even though they had hangovers, they were happy, ordering food and drinking mimosas. Christy said, "I can't wait to try that shower. You two made it sound like it's the best shower ever." The three girls laughed as Samantha and I smiled at each other. After everyone had showered and left, except for Samantha, who needed a ride home, she sat close to me in the car. "Jim, I know what your wife did was bad, but you can still try to make things work with her. If not, I'd be happy to see you again," Samantha said, hopeful. "I'd like that, Samantha. But right now, I don't want to go back to my ex-wife. I had a great time with you. You're what I need at the moment. So give me a call if you think we can make it work," I replied, kissing Samantha at her doorstep. As she opened the door, Christy greeted me from the couch with a smile and a wave. Exiting, I realized that I was postponing a decision regarding Linda. Returning to the club had been a spontaneous response to her infidelity. While it didn't resolve my issues with Linda, it certainly lifted my spirits. Upon arriving home, I took a moment to unwind, sinking into a chair in the dimly lit living room. Lost in thought about how to navigate the end of my fractured marriage with minimal impact on my children, I didn't bother flicking on the light. Eventually, after an indeterminate amount of time, I heard a car pull into the driveway, followed by the sound of keys turning in the lock. "Jim, I'm home," her voice echoed, mirroring the tone I was accustomed to hearing upon her return from errands. As she shut the front door and flipped on the light, I turned to face her. She appeared unchanged. The same blue dress draped over her, dark hair cascading down her back, familiar features, rings adorning her fingers, everything remained unchanged. It was as if nothing had transpired, as if she hadn't spent the entire night and morning betraying me with another man. This can't be real, I thought, expecting some visible difference, a trace of guilt or shame etched on her face. Yet there was nothing. "It's just me, same old me always," she remarked with a gentle smile, fully aware of my inner turmoil. "Nothing's altered here. My love for you is as steadfast as ever. I wish I could say the same." Hearing my own words, I realized the detached tone I adopted. Jim, with the countenance of a man devoid of emotion, I mused, gazing at Linda before gesturing toward our bedroom. "Don't start. Go take a shower," I instructed firmly. Despite attempting to interject, Linda eventually obeyed, retreating upstairs. After her shower, she returned downstairs. "Jim, where are my clothes from last night?" she inquired. "I believe they're still in the hotel room where you left them." "You didn't bring them back?" "No." Linda paused, almost about to criticize me, but then she stopped herself. She knew that criticizing me would just make her own bad actions worse. Instead, she stayed quiet, realizing it wouldn't help to argue. "Why did you leave them?" "Linda," she sighed. "It was Mark Lavalier. He's rich and famous, and he can have any woman he wants. When he asked me to dance last night, I felt like the most special woman in the room. He made me feel really good," Linda said, still feeling happy about the night before. As she spoke, it was evident she had become lost in reminiscing about the moments shared with Mark, completely disengaged from our conversation. It was in that moment that I realized it was truly the end. Linda will forever treasure her time with Mark Lavalier more than any moment with me. I was merely an afterthought, I reflected. "Do you love him?" I inquired. "No, I don't love him. It was merely physical." "I love you, Jim," Linda replied. "You hesitated," I pointed out. "Linda, I recognize what that look means. You would have gone with him if he'd asked. It was just one night. It was just physical. The conversation ends here. I need time to think. Pack some things for yourself and the children and stay with your parents for the week." "But Jim, the discussion is closed. If you truly want to resolve this urgently, given how I'm feeling, you won't get the outcome you desire," Linda retorted. This time there was anger in my tone and expression. Linda packed her bag and departed. As soon as she was out of sight, I set my plan in motion. Seeing Linda at the doorway in her familiar blue dress, unchanged, triggered an epiphany. I realized that change was necessary for my survival. I contacted my boss requesting 2 weeks off, then rented a truck and purchased supplies from the hardware store: wood, drywall, paint, and 2 exterior doors. Upon returning home, I gathered my tools and got to work. Firstly, I removed the front door and the surrounding windows. After cutting out a sizable opening, I installed the 2 front doors, positioning the old one on the right and the new one on the left. Then, I framed the wall along the main entrance, dividing the house into 2 and applied drywall. I was changing my house into 2 separate homes. I put a new door in the back on one side where the new kitchen would be. It matched the other side of the house. The room I used as an office became a 3rd bedroom on my side. On Linda's side, the dining room became the 3rd bedroom. When it was done, each side of the house was almost the same, except Linda had a garage that I was going to copy later. I changed the lock on the garage and the code on the garage doors so only I could get in. I also put up a fence in the backyard, splitting it exactly in half to make it into 2 homes. I called my kids every day to tell them about the changes I was making to the house. Even though Linda wanted to talk to me, I said I wasn't ready to listen. A few days later, I called Samantha because I wanted to hear her voice and maybe spend more time with her. "I can't stop thinking about you," I told her. "Would you consider going on a trip together?" I proposed. "No, stop teasing me," she responded. "I'm serious. I was thinking of a weekend getaway." "Just you and me," I clarified. "Really?" Samantha's interest was piqued. "Yes, how about the Bahamas?" I suggested. "Sounds tempting." "Can you get away this weekend? Fly out on Thursday and return on Tuesday?" I asked eagerly. Yes, I'll just grab my phone and passport. We can buy everything else there." Samantha agreed. After exchanging excitement about our upcoming adventure, I bid her farewell to finalize my travel arrangements. A spontaneous trip to the Bahamas wasn't cheap, but why not take the chance? If Linda decides on a divorce, she'll receive half of our savings and my salary for child support. It amused me to think of it as Linda indirectly funding part of the trip with Samantha. I moved all our money into a bank account just for me and changed my salary to go there too. Even though I didn't think Linda would cancel the credit card, I wanted to make sure I could get money if I needed it. I worked really hard, almost all day, for 16 hours, and I built most of the walls in the house. Some parts weren't finished yet. By Wednesday, I had painted and put trim on the wall in the middle of Linda's side. Later, I'd have to separate things like electricity, gas, and water. But for now, Linda couldn't cut off my side because we shared those things. I told Linda to bring the kids home the next morning. On Thursday morning, I locked up my part of the house and sat outside, waiting on a chair. When they got there and got out of the car, they looked surprised on the front lawn. Then Emma spoke up. "Dad, what's going on?" I turned our home into a duplex. "Like it?" I asked, to which they all stared at me incredulously. "Don't worry, guys. I've finished the right side and moved your belongings to your new rooms," I assured them, leading them through the new layout while Linda attended to their bags. They were speechless. Harder concluded in the living room of the right side. "But Dad, the living room is much smaller," Tommy observed. "Don't fret, you won't even notice. Plus, I plan to add a garage on the other side and eventually a pool with a jacuzzi," I promised, eliciting smiles from the children. Linda prompted the children to unpack while she exchanged glances with me, seemingly eager to talk. Instead, I joined the kids, helping them settle in and ensuring they had everything they needed. After unpacking, I pulled out sandwiches from a local deli, and we gathered around the kitchen table for lunch. "Dad, what's all this about?" Emma queried, her focus mostly on Linda's reaction after spending the past few days with her. It was evident to Emma and Tommy that something was amiss, with their mother dodging their inquiries. "Oh, we're nearing empty nest status. I've realized that things are bound to change. I'm just getting prepared, that's all," I mentioned. "Gee, Dad, you could have at least talked to us first to see how we feel about it," Emma remarked. "Well, actually, it was Mom's idea. She felt we needed a change, something different," I explained, grinning at Linda, who appeared surprised. "Mom, why make such a big decision without discussing it with us?" Emma questioned. "Yes, Mom, don't you care about our thoughts?" Linda seemed puzzled. "It was just a misunderstanding. Your father misinterpreted how I felt," Linda responded. "I don't know, dear. You seemed quite certain then. Once I saw your unwavering commitment, I knew there was no turning back," I added, causing Linda to appear on the verge of tears before she left the room. Tommy asked, "What's up with Mom lately? She's been crying over everything." I relayed. I shrugged and suggested they ask her. Before Emma could ask more, I informed them of my planned trip out of town, ensuring them I'd call every evening but be unreachable otherwise. I kissed their heads and swiftly made my way to the door. I wondered if the kids noticed that I didn't say bye to their mom, who was still in the bedroom. Then I took Samantha and we left. It was amazing. We flew first class, stayed in a fancy hotel, and got treated like royalty. The weekend was full of sunshine, sand, waves, food, and drinks. It was really great. Samantha was really thankful and happy the whole time. When we were heading back, we both had tans and knew each other's bodies really well. I dropped Samantha off on Tuesday, and she kissed me a lot. She asked, "Do you want to spend one more night?" She asked, "Yes, but we need to meet in person sometime and you have classes tomorrow. Call me before bed. I need to hear your voice." After our final kiss, I drove home, feeling content. Samantha mentioned last night that she could see herself falling for someone like me. Pulling up to my house, I noticed Linda's car in her driveway. Opting to avoid her, I parked on the street in front of my side. While unpacking, Linda knocked on my door. "You're back," she noted. "Yes, I am." "Can we talk?" "Sure. What's on your mind?" "Can I come in?" "No, this is my space and you're not welcome here." "Ever," I asserted, leaving Linda visibly taken aback before she retreated to her room. The realization hit me that living on her side of the duplex was not going to happen. We sat at her kitchen table. "Jim, I love you. I want things to go back to normal," she said. "It won't happen." I said, "Sure, why not?" Then she asked, "Because, haven't you noticed? You did something that changed how I feel about you forever." She said it shouldn't change our relationship. "But it does," I argued. "What happened won't go away or how I feel about it." "But I still love you," I said, trying to think. "Imagine we're on a date with friends. You leave me for another man and spend the whole night and morning with him. If this happened on our first date, would there be a second?" "But Jim, it was Mark," she begged. "I don't care who it was. You chose someone else over me. You chose to sneak out of the club and be with Mark Lavalier. It was just one night. You've had your whole life to show me you love me. The moment someone more famous spoke to you, I became insignificant." I explained. "Does this mean I should keep you away from all famous people? There's a marathon this weekend. Will you sleep with the winner?" she countered. "Jim, that's not fair," she protested. In a calm voice, I responded, "So now you want fairness. You want a chance to minimize what you did, to talk me out of my anger, to shame me for feeling betrayed. A fair chance to accuse me of not prioritizing our family over my own pain. It seems I'm the only one expected to be fair in this relationship." I reached for her hand and she reluctantly took it. We locked eyes and I knew I was about to deliver a painful blow. Linda needed to understand how our future relationship would unfold, and I was eager to show her. "It's too late, Linda. Too late." "Yes, it's too late. I found someone else," she said. "No," I said back. Linda moved away from me, taking her hands back. "Do you know who it is?" she asked. "I'm sure Dee and your friends told you about the redhead I danced with." "The one who held me tightly," I said. Linda realized the woman who took my attention on our anniversary, the one who made me forget about her, came to her mind. I looked at Linda's eyes and saw sadness. I understood that Dee must have sent Linda pictures of Samantha and me dancing closely, looking like we were in love. With simmering anger in her voice, Linda asked, "Are you doing this to retaliate against me? Introducing some 24-year-old girl to me to even the score? Actually, she's 21. I spent 4 days with her in the Bahamas. Remember that dream vacation we always talked about? It was fantastic." I knew I wore a broad smile as I spoke, unable to contain my excitement. The weekend truly had been remarkable. Linda glared at me once I finished speaking. I sensed my words had stoked her anger. I knew my lingering smirk only fueled it further. Reminding myself of the children, I took a deep breath, willing my face to relax and the grin to fade. Linda's eyes burned with fury, indicating she was about to unleash a torrent of condemnation. But upon seeing my grin resurface, she realized I anticipated every word she intended to utter. Linda froze. Then she let out a slow exhale, shut her mouth, and rested her hand on the table. We sat in silence, locked in a stare. I could tell Linda wanted to lash out at me, to scold me for my actions. However, she recognized she had lost her moral high ground. The leverage she relied on in our relationship was built on love and trust, qualities she had casually discarded for a single night of passion. Linda realized that her actions had caused more damage than she thought. I believe when Linda chose to be with Mark, She thought it was just a small change in our relationship, but now she realized she had risked everything without thinking. Linda sat quietly for a moment, her hands together on the table, looking away. "It doesn't matter. I love you," she said. "Yes, you keep saying your love is special. But why should I care about your love when it's clear my love for you doesn't mean anything to you after what you did? So why should I care about your love? But I don't want to lose you." "Well, I fail to understand how you thought you could shatter my trust completely and still expect to keep me. You took me for granted and now you don't deserve me." Linda appeared bewildered. "I'm going to my place. There's still a lot of work to be done around the house. I'll be back for dinner with you and the kids. Please don't bother me until then." I stood up and headed back to my apartment. Linda wept as I departed. Leaving Linda was incredibly painful. I longed to embrace her like before, but deep down I knew there was no returning to what we once were. The Linda I knew as my wife was gone and would never return. Anything I have with her now will serve as a painful reminder of everything we could have had. Everything she carelessly destroyed without a second thought or a hint of remorse. Before dinner, the kids and I ventured to my side of the house to explore. I showed them the new kitchen area and my plan to replace the back wall with glass overlooking the pool. They seemed concerned. As they observed the fence dividing the backyard, they grasped that this side would be mine. Then I indicated where their new rooms would be on my side of the house. "Dad, why do I need 2 bedrooms here?" Tommy inquired. "Because this side is going to be my home, and that side will be your mother's home," I explained. "Emma, are you and Mom getting divorced?" Tommy asked. "Dad, Mom won't say anything no matter how many times we ask," Emma added. "No, we're just separated. I don't want to be a weekend dad, so I thought it would be best to split the house, and you two can choose which side you want to live on." Just as we were about to continue, Linda popped her head through the front door to announce that dinner was ready. We ate in silence, with Linda appearing tense. It was evident that the children had picked up on more than we realized. Tommy said too loudly, "I'll live with Dad once he finishes decorating my room." Linda looked surprised. "Dad told you we're splitting up." "It's just a misunderstanding, and we're still talking about it," Linda explained. Emma slammed her hand on the table and exclaimed, "Who's changing? I want to know." Emma and Tommy exchanged looks between Linda and me. I locked eyes with Linda, who avoided my gaze and stared at her plate. When Linda began to cry, the children got their answer. I informed the children that their mother was exhausted and needed rest. Guiding Linda to the bedroom, I assisted her in undressing and tucked her into bed. Planting a quick kiss on her forehead, reminiscent of comforting a child after a nightmare, I switched off the light and closed the door. My focus shifted to Linda, akin to handling a grown child who had committed a grave offense and faced a lifelong sentence. While I still harbored love for her, she was no longer a prominent figure in my daily life or thoughts. Initially, I checked on Tommy in his room. He lay on his bed, engrossed in correspondence with his friends. When I asked if he wanted to talk, he declined. Proceeding to Emma's room, I found her angry and tearful. "Why did she do this, Dad?" she questioned. "You'll have to ask her. Forgiveness isn't easy," I replied. "Then I don't know if I can forgive myself," she lamented. "I understand, but I want us to remain a family," I reassured her. "We are. I just won't share a room with Mom anymore," she declared. We hugged, said we loved each other, and then I went back to my side of the house. This became our new routine because I usually left for work before the kids woke up. Our mornings stayed the same. Linda and I still shared the responsibility of taking the kids to their activities and events. We tried to have family dinners in Linda's part of the house whenever we could. Even though Linda tried to talk about our situation every week, I refused, saying I didn't want to talk about it. Things were different at school events. I made sure not to stand or sit near Linda when we were there for our children's events. If she came near me, I quickly said I had to go to the restroom and then moved somewhere else when I came back. I was rarely alone for long, as single or divorced acquaintances often gravitated toward me. They invariably inquired about our relationship status, to which I consistently replied that we were separated as of the following month. I invested in new attire, appliances, kitchen fixtures, and furnishings from my side of the house, transforming it into a stylish bachelor pad with a large TV and updated entertainment system. I spared no expense. When I acquired a high-end convertible, Linda voiced concerns about our finances. "Jim, can we afford all this? The car must have been expensive." "Linda, my car was older than yours by 8 years, and I needed an upgrade. You've always replaced your car twice as often as I did. So I decided to catch up on those missed years with my new car." And what about everything else that's new? Did you really think I'd want to live in a rundown place? What about the furniture? I thought I was being nice by not making you get rid of any of the furniture you picked for your home. I'd be okay with sharing it with you. It's okay. I never really liked your taste in furniture anyway. Why didn't you tell me before? I stayed quiet because I wanted you to be happy. Furniture wasn't important to me. I let her think about that for a moment. Don't worry, we're financially stable. Actually, the house is paid off, and once the kids move out my side will be too big for me. I plan to rent it out for extra income. So money won't be an issue. Linda flashed me her most approving smile, the someone's getting lucky today smile, and reached out to pat my shoulder. I'm not complaining. I like your new car, and you look great in your new clothes. Thanks, I can't take all the credit. Tommy and Emma wanted a convertible to drive, and Samantha helped me pick out the clothes and furniture. Turns out we have similar tastes. At the mention of Samantha, Linda's smile faltered, and her hand dropped from my shoulder. Oh, I was just curious. With that, she turned and walked away. I hadn't meant to flaunt Samantha in Linda's face, but she was becoming a significant part of my life. I also realized that I often thought about Samantha and seldom about Linda's feelings. Samantha started frequenting my side of the house regularly. Eventually, Tommy moved into my side as his main bedroom. Emma, who had mostly stayed on Linda's side, began spending more time with Samantha. Samantha seemed to assume the role of Emma's cool older sister. Before long, Samantha was spending weekends and most weeknights with me. The only problem came up when I wanted Samantha to come to family dinners again. Linda was polite, but it was clear she didn't want it to happen often. The next day, as I was leaving for work, Linda stopped me. Jim, I appreciate our talk, but I'd rather you didn't bring your girlfriend to our dinners. That's our time to be a family with the kids. Okay, I understand. From now on, I won't come to dinner if Samantha isn't there, but I'll also invite the kids to join me and Samantha for dinner if they want. That's not fair, Jim. Dinner is the only time we can all be together as a family. So, now we're talking about what's fair. Linda, let's be honest here. Samantha is becoming an important part of my life, and I want her to be more involved. She gets along well with the kids. It doesn't seem fair to exclude her from our family dinners. Are we talking about what's fair to me or to the kids? If you want to exclude her, you'll be excluding me too. But Jim, Linda, your idea of honesty has always been about yourself. Forget about how I feel. I bet you thought you were being honest when you sneaked out the back door to be with Mark Lavalier. Even though we weren't living together anymore, it was surprising to see how Linda still thought she could manipulate me easily. Linda, you threw integrity out the window that night. So if you don't like it, fairness would be for you to start cooking dinners on my side, and I'll let you join us. Samantha loves cooking, and she's great at it. With tears in her eyes, Linda said, I'm sorry I brought this up. Samantha is more than welcome to join us for dinner anytime she wants. After the pool and hot tub were finished, Tommy particularly enjoyed hanging out with Kim, Christy, and Susan by the new pool. They shamelessly flirted with Tommy, engaging in a friendly competition to see who could make him blush the most. Their competition escalated with tighter swimsuits. But Christy had an advantage because of her curves. When she kissed Tommy in the pool and pressed her chest against him, she won. Tommy couldn't leave the pool for about 10 minutes. Even though the water was cold, Tommy definitely won their game. He became more confident and eventually got a girlfriend at school. When the girls met Tommy's girlfriend, they stopped flirting with him and treated her like the luckiest girl. Samantha has great friends. And no, I never let Linda come to my side of the house. I didn't want her to make things complicated with Samantha. Sadly, a few years later, Samantha graduated from high school, and we broke up. I could see it in Samantha's face at Susan's wedding, which we went to together. I realized I was essentially becoming her provider due to our age gap. While it didn't bother me, I sensed it bothered Samantha. Despite our wonderful rapport, spending entire weekends together and integrating with each other's families, there was an unspoken tension. When Samantha hinted at relocating, I proposed to her, but she expressed her desire to adhere to a family tradition instead. Although she didn't explicitly say it, I could sense her internal conflict. I was perfect for her in many ways, just not the right age. I felt like Samantha was taking me for granted, assuming that great men like me were abundant. I subtly tried to make her realize that her rigid standards were creating an insurmountable barrier for any man. Just like with Linda, my success seemed to backfire, as Samantha seemed to think I was interchangeable. I reminded Samantha about how Linda thought the same way and where it got her. Samantha strongly denied ever making the same mistake, and that sealed our fate. I understood Samantha's decision in the end. I told her that if she ever changed her mind, I'd be there for her. Maybe we could get back together later in life when the age difference isn't as big. I cherished every moment I spent with Samantha, and I liked how honest she was when we talked. It was different from Linda's dishonesty. Linda's friends, who used to be my friends too, sometimes tried to convince me to get back together with her. But their arguments didn't convince me. I would tell them how it feels to be cheated on by your spouse, and they seemed to understand and even support my decision based on what I saw that night. Actually, I don't think it was just luck that we ended up at a club where Mark Lavier goes. I think it's because I was married to the most attractive woman. Call it karma. A few months later, I heard that the girls had switched their girls' night out to a new club, one where Mark Lavier was known to frequent without informing their husbands. I casually mentioned to Dave, a co-worker, that I saw Dee dancing with Mark at the club. Dave's friend even noticed that Mark vanished about an hour later, coinciding with the departure of the group of ladies from the club. However, Dave's friend didn't witness Dee leaving with the group. When confronted, all the wives denied being at the club and insisted it was a mistake. But days later, Dave's friend shared a photo showing Mark Lavier conversing with the wives at the table. Eventually, the wives admitted their presence at the club, but each claimed no one left with Mark. However, their conflicting stories eventually revealed the truth. Reluctant to betray their friend, the wives refused to identify who left with Mark. When they finally said it was Dee, I heard that the trust was already broken. During a meeting where husbands talked about their wives' stories, Dave summed it up well. He said how the wives always covered for each other and lied easily. This wasn't the first time they had a girls' night out. How could they be sure Dee wouldn't also meet Mark Lavier or someone else? Each husband watched their wife's face when Mark Lavier talked to them. That night at our table, everyone heard their wives supporting Linda's actions and wishing they could do the same. After Linda went to the first bachelorette party, all the husbands knew about her. At first, they were happy because it made things exciting in the bedroom when Linda talked about Mark. But a few months later, one husband joked about not liking sleeping on silk sheets anymore. After comparing notes, they realized both sets of silk sheets were new and identical in color. In discussions with other husbands, it came to light that 4 couples had recently acquired new white silk sheets for their beds. Following Dee's night with Mark, the husbands grew concerned that their wives were revisiting their own encounters with him. All 4 couples ended up divorcing within a year. I learned of this when Dave, the first to divorce, apologized to me and explained the events leading to his split. Subsequently, each husband personally expressed regret to me for their involvement that night with Linda. They all essentially admitted that if they had stood up for me, it might have sent a clearer message to their own wives, potentially saving their marriages. As for Mark Lavier, his habit of pursuing married women eventually angered the wrong person. No one knows who, but as Mark exited the club with his latest conquest, someone in a ski mask stunned him with a taser. Before Mark could recover, the assailant struck him in the groin. While Mark screamed in pain, the attacker badly hurt both of his knees. Even though there was video of the attack, nobody was caught. There were too many husbands who could have done it. Mark couldn't walk anymore. As for Linda, the last time we talked about our relationship was the day Emma moved out. By then, we were already divorced, and I had rented out my part of the house and moved to a condo by the sea. Linda asked if she could talk to me after Emma went to college. "Jim, I still love you. I made a big mistake, and I've been sorry every day since then. I haven't gone on any dates or even looked at another man since. I know you haven't been in a serious relationship with anyone since Samantha, and I want you to come back and live with me, just to see if things work out," Linda said. Then she took off a necklace she was wearing and gave it to me. My wedding ring was hanging from it, the same ring I gave to Dee the night Linda left me. Linda looked at me hopefully. "You still don't understand what went wrong, Linda. That night you thought it was a test of my love for you, but actually it was a test of your love for me. But I really love you. No, you treasure what we used to have. You loved our marriage that seemed perfect, having a great husband and kids. You liked that I didn't treat you like an object or a trophy wife, that we made decisions together. You enjoyed our intimate moments, even though they happened less often. They were as strong as when we started. You respected that I cared about your feelings more than anything else. You appreciated the financial stability I gave you for your goals. But most importantly, you valued that I always trusted you without any doubt. Now you say you love me more than ever, realizing you won't find someone else who could make you as happy." "No one will ever love you as much as I used to," Linda said. She didn't move, holding the necklace away from her, squeezing it so tight her hand turned white. You didn't realize how good we had it, and now it's gone. I can't be around you anymore. I won't let you hurt me like you did again. I thought it was us against everyone else. But you ruined everything when you decided to be with Mark Lavalier. Linda started to cry. How many times do I have to say I'm sorry? It wasn't about Mark. Linda, you felt lucky when he took you home. But I felt lucky too. When I was really sad, your friends tried to tell me I was silly. But you showed me we were really important. Not because of you, but because of me. You left because my love was stronger, not yours. My love would never betray me like you did. It was the music that we danced to that made us special. As I sat at the table, angry and thinking, I saw Samantha across the room looking sad. When she saw me looking at her, she smiled. That smile reminded me that I still had a chance to be happy, to love someone new. You helped me see things clearly and be free. With that, I got into my convertible and drove away happily. I couldn't wait to get back home. Samantha quit her job and came to live with me last week. Since then, she's shown me that she'll always be there for me. Trust is a wonderful thing. Second story, moving on from cheating, finding peace instead of revenge. I wanted to share my story and some thoughts with this wonderful community. Like many of you, I've been through the painful experience of being cheated on. It's a hurt that goes deep and leaves lasting scars. But along my journey, I've learned that seeking revenge or holding on to bitterness only makes the pain last longer. Instead, focusing on self-healing and finding peace has been the best way forward. When I first found out about the betrayal, I felt angry and hurt. I wanted to get back at them, but I realized that revenge wouldn't make me feel better. It would only keep me stuck in negativity. So, I decided to focus on myself. I started doing things that made me happy, like trying new hobbies, spending time with loved ones, and taking care of myself. I made self-care a priority. Through this process, I discovered that true happiness comes from within. I learned to love and respect myself, knowing that I deserve someone who values and respects me. I stopped seeking validation from others and found comfort in my own company. And you know what? Eventually, the right person came into my life. Someone who saw my worth and treated me with the love and respect I deserve. Someone who would never betray my trust. So, to anyone out there who's struggling with the aftermath of infidelity, I urge you to focus on yourself. Find what brings you peace and happiness and embrace it wholeheartedly. The right person will come along when the time is right, and they will cherish you in ways you never thought possible. Stay strong, my friends, and remember that your worth is not defined by the actions of others. You deserve happiness, and you will find it. Thanks for joining us on this chapter of Relation Tales. If you were moved by these stories, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Don't miss out on the upcoming emotional roller coaster of relationships. Your support means the world, and we can't wait to share more compelling tales with you. Until next time, remember, every relationship has a story worth telling. See you soon.